Morning, everyone. I just wanted to go over some housekeeping before we get started. My name is Annika Irvinlord. I am the Assistant Director at OCUL for Collaborative Initiatives. And this morning we've got a great agenda ahead of us. Before we jump in, just to let you know, the event is being recorded and we will be making that available in the coming days. So if you would like to circulate that to any of your colleagues, or if you have to step out and then catch up on some presentations later, it will be available to you. We also have automated closed captions, and for the sessions this morning, you can enable them at the bottom of your screen. There should be a button either under the three dots more or at the bottom of your screen that says captions. You can turn them on to look at them throughout the session. There will also be a transcript that is written and provided afterwards. We ask that you keep your cameras and your mics off during the presentations. And we also ask that presenters, when it comes to your turn to actually present, if you can turn on your camera so we can locate you and spotlight you and make sure that everyone can see you. So I think that is it. Please feel free to use the chat and the Q&A module throughout. We will be keeping an eye on that as well. So I would like to hand over now to Robin Canuel, who's a university librarian at Lakehead University and chair of the Collaborative Futures Steering Committee, to start us off this morning. Over to you.
Great. Thank you, Annika. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our 5th Collaborative Futures mini conference. I believe we have approximately 300 folks registered to attend today for what looks like an incredible morning of presentations and information sharing. A sincere thank you and congratulations to the conference planning team for their great work organizing today's event. I'm always so impressed with the mini conference program every year, and this year is no exception. I really believe that the program and this conference truly exemplify the spirit and vision of radical collaboration upon which Collaborative Futures was founded. Our successful collaboration continues to grow and develop, as next week we will be welcoming TMU Libraries as our 19th member as they launch Omni for their students and researchers. Before going any further, I'm going to begin with a land acknowledgement to get our morning started in a good way. Please feel free to share your own land acknowledgement in the chat from where you are joining us this morning. Lakehead University respectfully acknowledges that its campuses are located on the traditional lands of Indigenous peoples. Lakehead Thunder Bay, where I am situated this morning, is located on the traditional lands of Fort William First Nation, signatory to the Robinson-Superior Treaty of 1850. Lakehead's other campus in Aurelia is located on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe. The Anishinaabe include the Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. Lakehead University acknowledges the history that many nations hold in the areas around our campuses and is committed to a relationship with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples based on the principles of mutual trust, respect, reciprocity, and collaboration in the spirit of reconciliation. Miigwech. Thank you. As mentioned, we have an excellent slate of presentations ahead of us this morning. To get the ball rolling, Nirmal Prasad, reporting and assessment analyst at the University of Waterloo Library, will be sharing a time-saving technique that allows you to combine data fields of multiple subject areas in Alma Analytics using SQL Join. This session will be followed by what I'm sure will be a very interesting presentation by Iman, Gamal, and Andrea B. from the University of Guelph Library, entitled Maximizing E-Collection Management Efficiency with Community Zone Updates Task List. Then wrapping up the first half of our morning, Matthew Fesnak, Paige Roman, and Cameron Wheaton from McMaster University Library will be answering a burning question that we all have. Why are there so many M&M boxes on the 3rd floor? All joking aside, this session will certainly be a fascinating glimpse into the complex work that comes with participating in shared print initiatives. Then we'll have a short break from 10:45 to 11 a.m. And when we reconvene, Johanna Whitson and Alexa Evans from the University of Waterloo Library will present Big Picture of Alma Workflows, Dissection in Alma Workflows Post-Migration and Pandemic. This session will then be followed by a talk by Mark Wheeler, Web and User Experience Librarian at Wilfrid Laurier University Library, along with his Laurier colleagues Dylan Moore, Cindy Shen, and Matt Thomas, and McMaster University Library colleagues David Kemper, Debbie Lawler, and Nancy Wade, as well as Bart Kaula from Scholars Portal. They will be sharing their collaborative project to improve Omni for users with print disabilities by integrating a request alternate format for print disabled users link into Primo VE brief records. We will then conclude the morning with a session by Marie-Hélène Tanguay-Bérubé, Systems Librarian at the University of Ottawa, about their experience with LendIT, the all-in-one solution for self-serve. There will be some time at the end of each presentation for questions. However, we have also included a bit of time at the end of the morning for an open Q&A for additional questions that were unable to be asked earlier due to time limitations. I'll end with a big thank you to all our presenters today for sharing your knowledge, ideas, and expertise with us as we collectively learn to maximize the potential of our library services platform and continue to improve our services and take full advantage of what Alma Primo has to offer. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Okay, so I am going to hand over to Kimberly Ash, who will be moderating the first set of sessions.
Thanks, Annika, and thanks, Robin. Hi, everyone. I'm Kimberly Ash. I'm a librarian at Brock University, and as mentioned, I'm going to be the moderator for the first half of the conference. Nirmal, if you're here, if you wouldn't mind turning your camera on. Awesome. Good to see you. Okay, so if you want to get your screen ready and sharing, I'll introduce you. So I'd like to welcome Nirmal Prasad, Reporting and Assessment Analyst at the University of Waterloo. Nirmal's presentation is titled Combining Data Fields of Multiple Subject Areas in Alma Analytics Using SQL Join. So welcome, Nirmal. Whenever you're ready, you can start sharing your screen.
Thanks, Kimberly. Can you see my screen now?
Yep, we can see your screen and see you and hear you.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Nirmal Prasad. I'm a reporting and assessment analyst for the collections development department of the library at the University of Waterloo. So in this first session, I'm going to give a live demo in Alma Analytics for combining data elements of multiple subject areas using SQL Join. You can interrupt me if you have any queries in the middle, but there is time at the end of the session as well. So before we begin, the territorial acknowledgement. The University of Waterloo acknowledges that much of our work takes place on the traditional territory of Neutral and Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our main campus is situated on the Haldimand Tract, the land granted to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. Our active work toward reconciliation takes place across our campuses through research, learning, teaching, and community building, and is coordinated within the Office of Indigenous Relations. So before we begin, let me go through the prerequisites for this live demo. So this is a technique which is used in Alma Analytics. So we'll need a necessary role to create analysis in Alma Analytics, which is the design analytics role. Secondly, knowledge of how Alma Analytics is organized. So we know that Alma Analytics is a Oracle Business Intelligence solution. It's a data warehouse where data is organized into different subject areas, and it is used to record the events and its different attributes in the fact tables as well as dimension tables. And each subject area is designed as a star schema We'll go into the details with an example. And lastly, some knowledge about SQL Join clause. So let me give you an overview of how an analysis gets created in Alma Analytics. So we know that we have a user interface for Alma Analytics where the analyst drags and drops certain fields from the different subject areas into the console. So what happens in the background is there is an analytics engine that runs, which is used to form SQL queries based on the actions performed by the analyst. And for each analysis, an SQL query is issued to the analytics server. And this analytics server uses that SQL query to pull data from the data warehouse. So basically the GUI acts like a abstraction layer so that creating analysis becomes easier for the analyst. Let me show you how it happens using a live demo. So this is the Alma Analytics interface. I have an analysis created already. Let me go to the edit option. So it opens up the console. So you can see that it's an analysis created using the licenses subject area. And I have pulled 3 fields onto the console, which is license ID, license term, and license value. These are just parameters of a particular electronic license. And what happens is when I drag and drop these license terms into the console, there is an SQL query, which is formed by the analytics engine, which gets issued to the analytics server for pulling the data. And that SQL query can be viewed under the advanced tab. If you scroll down, there is a section called SQL issued. So here you can see the actual SQL query, which is formed by the analytics engine. And this is issued to the analytics server. Let me go back to the criteria tab and just click on results. So you can see it has populated, it has pulled the information from the data warehouse, and it shows the different parameters of the license. Going back to the presentation. So that's how Alma Analytics engine works. Now, let's get into the requirement. What if we need an analysis that requires pulling data from 2 different subject areas? So what we have seen is pulling information from a single subject area. Is it possible to create this analysis by combining data elements from different subject areas using the traditional methods? That's the main question. It seems like it's possible to an extent, but the traditional methods have a limitation. So data elements and subject areas in analytics can be combined, but there is a limitation. It's impossible to combine 2 subject areas if we don't have a common dimension with measures. To overcome this, Alma Analytics has added dimensions from many subject areas to other subject areas, but this does not always help. So let me explain what we mean by a common dimension. So if we take the example of 2 subject areas, the e-inventory subject area and title subject area, we have a common dimension among them, which is the bibliographic details. That's a common dimension table among these 2 subject areas. So it should be possible to combine these 2 subject areas using that particular bibliographic details dimension. But what if we have a different requirement, like if we need to create a report on electronic portfolios with perpetual access rights? So we know that this will require combining data elements from 2 subject areas, which is e-inventory and licenses subject areas. But we will see later that we'll have a technical error when trying to perform it using the traditional methods. Let me go into the live demo for this. So I have a traditional I have an analysis created using the traditional method. So here we have the e-inventory subject area, and I have pulled some fields from the e-inventory subject area, basically the portfolio details, the collection details, some license information. So basically we only have the license ID associated with that portfolio. We don't have the license parameters like whether the license has perpetual access or not. So for that, we need to add the licenses subject area to this analysis. So we have an option here for adding additional subject areas. So let me add the licenses subject area to the analysis. And inside licenses, let me go into license term. I will pull in license term value, and I will use the license term as a filter. So the license term, I am filtering for perpetual access rights. Let me remove the license term from here. So what I'm trying to achieve is, to the license information, I'm adding the extra parameter from the license subject area to see whether it has perpetual access or not. Now let's see the results for this analysis. Yeah, so here we have an error while creating the analysis. Let's go into the details here. And we can see that we have an error which says no fact table exists at the requested level of detail. So I can explain this. Let me go back to the presentation. So we have this technical error. The main reason for this error is we don't have a common dimension table which can be used to combine these two subject areas. Even though it stores the license information, it stores them in two different dimension tables. For example, let me go back to the demo. If you go to the criteria tab, if you take the e-inventory subject area, the license information is stored in a dimension table called electronic collection license. So we have the license information here. But if you go to the if you go to the licenses subject area, the license information is stored in a different dimension table. It's called license header. So since the dimension tables are named differently in the two subject areas, it's impossible to combine data elements from these two subject areas using the traditional methods. Going back to the presentation. So what are the solutions? We can have a workaround solution using the traditional method, but it's not an ideal one. So that would be running separate analysis for inventory and licenses subject area, generating two different Excel files and manually combining them using VLOOKUP. That is one way to do it, but it's not an ideal solution, especially if we need an analytics object, which is required to generate and email the reports automatically on a regular basis. So let's see what is possible with a different method. So the solution is to create analysis using a custom SQL. So we know that the different subject areas are just collection of relational tables. And for every analysis, there is an SQL query which is issued to the analytics server. So if there is a way to customize this particular SQL query, which is submitted to the analytics server, we can unlock some hidden potential of Alma Analytics. So as a step-by-step solution, step 1, obtain the license information of a portfolio from the inventory subject area. Step 2, using that license information, pull the license parameters the perpetual access rights information from the licenses subject area and combine these two information using a custom SQL. And the method which we use in SQL is join clause for combining the data from the two subject areas. So the first step is to form the SQL query. So in this example, we have table A, which is information from the inventory subject area. We have table B, which is the information from the licenses subject area. And we are joining A and B based on the license information. So we are writing a custom SQL query for pulling information from the inventory subject area. And it's a simple SQL query where the from references the subject area we are using. And there is a particular convention for each field to be used in the select statement. So the convention is the subject area name, followed by the dimension table name, followed by the field name. So we have to follow the same convention for all custom SQL queries created for Alma Analytics. So this is a simple SQL query for pulling information from first subject area. Then we have table B, which is also a select query, but in a different subject area, which is licenses. And in the last step, we are combining information from tables A and B using a left join. And the criteria used for matching the data is license ID. So we have license ID information in both the subject areas. We are combining them using a left join based on the license ID. So once we have formed the SQL query, I can give a demo of how to create the analysis using the SQL. Let me go back to the demo. So I have the SQL query ready for the analysis. Let me copy it. Let me go back to the analytics console. So for creating a new analysis, we have this create option on the top right. Select the option for analysis. And instead of selecting any subject area, we have an option for creating an analysis from a simple logical SQL. So select that and it prompts for entering the SQL statement. So we'll paste our SQL query there. Click OK. Yeah, so the results have come and we can see that for every portfolio, we have a license information as well as the parameters of the license, like whether we have a perpetual access for the portfolio or not. Now we can see there is a warning here on the left-hand side, which says invalid subject area. It doesn't cause any problem for creating the analysis, but if you need to fix this, just go into Advanced tab. And there is a section at the bottom where we can mention the subject area. So here we can enter the name of the subject area. So here you can either enter inventory in quotes or licenses. Any one will work. So if you go back to the results tab, you can see that that warning has been suppressed and we have the data here. So this is one way of solving this problem. Now, there can be other use cases for this method using custom SQL, like creating visuals using data elements combined from multiple subject areas. So this was an example for combining two subject areas, but it can be done for combining 3 or 4 subject areas. The only problem is that as the SQL query gets complex, the analysis takes longer to execute. So that needs to be kept in mind. And the other use case is it is also possible to combine subject areas using user-defined dimensions. So in this example, what I did was I was combining information or combining subject areas using a dimension that is already existing. But it's also possible to combine information using user-defined dimensions. For example, we had a requirement in our library to understand the lending trends for physical items, so which involved combining information from the physical items subject area and the fulfillment subject areas. So what we did was we created a chart, which is a line and bar chart, and which shows the trends in lending. So what we did was we grouped the physical items into different age groups, like 0 to 1 years, 1 to 3 years, 4 to 10 years, and so on, just to analyze what was the lending trend in each age group. And how we did it was we first created an analysis in physical item subject area using a user-defined dimension, which is age group. And this age group was created from the item receipt date. And then we created another analysis on the fulfillment subject area, just to understand what is the trend in the different, the fulfillment trends in the different subject, in the different age groups. And later, we combined the information from these two analyses into a single analysis and visualized it in the form of a line and bar chart. So here, it's easier to understand whether our lending trends are proportionate to the amount of holdings that we have. So this is one case where this particular method can be very useful. I don't think this is possible using traditional methods of analysis in Alma Analytics. So that's it from my side. I'm open to questions now.
Thank you so much, Nirmal. We have a question already from Matthew. Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I was just wondering if this the joins causes any issues when you make analytic objects, or is there anything special you have to do to make it an object after the SQL query?
So creating an analytics object is usually based on the analysis, and it's not completely based on what is happening behind the analytics engine. So that shouldn't cause a problem. The only concern here is if we issue a very complex SQL query, it can run for longer, it can take a lot of resources. And in some cases, for very complex SQL query, we can also get a timeout. So in that cases, the objects may fail to generate the results.
If there's any other questions, please raise your hand or put them in the chat. We have a question from Amanda in the chat. They say, I tried the join feature once and it seems static. I wanted to add an additional field and it seems like the only way to do that was to start from scratch. Is this true in your experience?
Yes, I have faced the same problem. So let me share my screen again. I can also explain the reason why that happens. So this is the result of the analysis using the join. And if you go to the criteria tab, we can see that the table names are different. it's not the standard table names from the subject area. Here we can see A and B, because A and B are the temporary tables which we use to combine data. So since it's not the standard naming convention, and even if you can see the field names are different. So due to this, once the analysis is created and saved, Alma doesn't provide you the provision for editing the analysis if you have an additional requirement. So if you are creating an analysis using this method, and if you need to make a change in the future, you have to modify the SQL query and create a new analysis. Editing the analysis won't be possible.
You've got lots of comments thanking you for the live demo, and somebody even said you're brave to do a live demo for your presentation. So well done.
Yeah. I had the screenshots in the presentation as well, in case if my demo doesn't work.
Always a good strategy. Lots of thanks in the chat as well for your presentation. If there's any additional questions that come up while you're thinking through the information that was shared, please put them into the Q&A, and we can potentially answer those at the open Q&A at the end of the day as well. Lots of thanks coming in. Thank you so much, Nirmal, for your presentation.
Thank you.
We're running a little bit early here, and I don't want us to get too ahead of schedule. But our next presenters, if you're ready, if you want to turn your cameras on, we can get you set up and ready for your presentation. We can just take our time a bit in doing that.
All right, let's hope my computer doesn't crash on me. It keeps crashing. Oh my goodness. So yeah, we're here. I think we're ready.
Great.
We're okay to start, yeah.
And there is a question for Nirmal while we're waiting. So if Nirmal wants to answer that while we're doing this, we have some time for that.
Is it the question from Jason?
Yes.
Yeah, so let me read out the query. When creating a new analysis report combining two subject areas, have you, as you have shown in the presentation, can we rename this new analysis with a new name, or we absolutely need to use any existing subject area name? Yes, I mean, what I understand is to fix that warning regarding invalid, I assume it's a question regarding the invalid subject area. So when we are manually passing the subject area name, we have to use an existing subject area, which is already present in Alma Analytics. Any subject area is okay. It's not necessary that we have to use the name of a subject area that we are using in our SQL query, because that's only a warning. It doesn't affect our analysis. So you can use any existing subject area names. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for answering that question, Nirmal. All right. We can move along to the next presentation now. So I'd like to introduce Iman Gamal, Collections Development Librarian, and Andrea B, Library Associate, both at the University of Guelph. Their presentation is titled Maximizing E-Collection Management Efficiency with Community Zone Updates Task List. So thanks so much for presenting today. And whenever you're ready, you can start sharing your screen.
Thank you, Kimberly. Okay, Andrea is going to share the screen in a second. And we're going to be in this slideshow. we're ready. Yes, awesome. Thank you, Andrea. Good morning, everyone. We are here today to share with you our journey exploring community zone update task list reports and how it shaped some of our electronic collection management practices here at University of Guelph. And as Kimberly said, we're with you today, Iman, Gamal, and Andrea. We are aiming to cover some background, then go through community zone update work that we did, and finally wrap it up with how that work affected some aspects of our electronic collection management. Why it took us from December 2019 to October 2022 to make the review of these reports part of our regular workflow? Well, when we migrated to Alma, December 2019, many titles transferred as standalone. Community zone electronic collections, we activated them, but their settings were not reviewed at the time due to new system and lack of knowledge for our staff at the time. So that hold us a little bit. Titles also migrated to incorrect bibliographic records, impacted our interlibrary loan fulfillment. Purchase orders also faced migration issues. Documentations were minimal due to the new system. So we had to pay attention to all of these issues before we can do anything else. Also, since the migration, we experienced significant staff change. With new staff joining us, librarians also changed roles or going on leave. This instability has made maintaining consistent workflow challenging for us. COVID was also another thing. So it changed our communication methods. Remote onboarding and training to new staff became more complex, and collaborations on issues was harder due to isolation. During all these challenges, community zone updates were happening weekly. Confusion about access points and workflow combined with piling updates that weren't promptly addressed led to multiple updates for the same collections, creating a backlog and additional confusion. Because of the problem and confusion community zone updates were causing us, especially with collections and service deletions, and hundreds of thousands of updates to manage. In March 2022, I formed a task force team of Andrea B., Brian Mota, Sherry Snyder, and myself to dive deep into the weeds of the community zone updates reports. Our team met weekly and started by asking key questions. We needed to understand how Alma processed these updates and which updates were critical for us. We explored the filters to manage the reports more effectively and assist our staffing capacity to determine what we could handle. Finally, we came up with a strategy to divide the work among the team members to ensure timely handling of these updates. During our weekly meetings, we worked to answer our initial questions. We reviewed and analyzed Ex Libris documentation to understand the scope and activities of the 16 reports. We examined community zone updates from the time we joined Alma in December 2019 until April 2022. And we used filters like collection type, order status, and free status to manage the reports more effectively. We determined that the important updates are those affecting access. So we prioritize the community zone updates to critical priority, which is updates that significantly impact access, such as collection deletions. Medium priority, which is updates can affect access, but are not as urgent, like the CDI linking or rights updates. And low priority, which are updates that do not impact purchase content access. This way, we were able to manage our staffing capacity and focus on the most critical updates. To streamline our process, we developed action tags. So for critical and medium priority updates, we investigated further. And for low priority updates, we typically dismiss them, though sometimes occasionally we might investigate. We also reviewed the electronic collection settings because it impacts which report the updates will appear in and which filter to apply. I shared our findings with our OCUL partners in February 2023. Here is a list of what we consider high priority critical reports. And here is a medium priority reports. And here we see our list of low priority reports. In October 2022, we transitioned the project from its investigative and pilot phase to becoming a complete part of our electronic resources management workflow. We introduced a tracking sheet and a basic procedure. Initially, every 6 weeks, our current 2 associates reviewed the reports and took the necessary actions. After a year of implementation in March 2024, we revisited the process. While documentation is still underway, the importance of the reports remain unchanged. However, we made a slight adjustment to our workflow, which is our 2 associates now exchange responsibilities for reviewing the reports every 6 weeks, and this rotation ensures proficiency across all updates. To you now, Andrea.
Thanks, Iman. So now we're going to take a look at how some of the work that Iman has just outlined, how it's impacted our e-collection management, and specifically has helped us craft some best practices. So best practice number 1 is handle related reports together. So the first best practice relates to handling of the CZ reports specifically. The problem is that some community zone update reports directly relate to one another, and as such, different reports cannot efficiently be handled by different people due to these interrelationships. In other words, updates in certain reports will often cause a cascade of other updates that appear in other reports. And originally, staff were assigned individual reports, and this siloing caused a fair amount of confusion and inefficiency as separate staff were trying to individually handle updates that were related to updates in other reports. So we identified 2 sets of reports in which these relationships exist. So set number 1 is electronic collection deleted, electronic service deleted, and portfolio deleted from non-auto active electronic service. And set number 2 consists of all of the reports that pertain to CDI. And the best practice that we've come up with to work with this problem is that now each of these sets of reports is assigned to a single person and reviewed concurrently. And the impact of this is that now updates for these sets of reports are handled holistically, making it less confusing for the staff who are assigned to them and generally making the work more efficient. Best practice number 2 is follow local definitions for e-collection type. So the problem is actually twofold with this. First part is that e-collection types assigned at the community zone do not necessarily reflect our institution's subscriptions. So for example, Scholars Portal collections are assigned a selective package in the community zone, but University of Guelph actually gets all content in these collections. So for us, they're actually aggregators. On top of that, selective collections are by default set up to not auto-activate new portfolios. The second aspect of this problem is that community zone updates are often delivered through what I call a remove and re-add workflow. So instead of updating the existing portfolios, they are instead deleted from the community zone and then re-added with the changes. And this results in portfolios that are deleted from the selective collections are deactivated and localized and made inaccessible. So when we were trying to handle the community zone update reports using these CZ assigned database types, we had to try to determine what in the package our institution was entitled to, which was unclear from the collection types assigned at the community zone, and also manually reactivate all updated portfolios and packages in which we get all content. In other words, for us, aggregator collections. So reports that are related to this best practice include electronic collection deleted, electronic service deleted, and then the 2 electronic portfolio deleted reports. The best practice that we come up with is to actually create our own local definitions for e-collection types and then overriding the community zone assigned types as appropriate. So our local definitions are for a database is a collection in which only collection level discovery is available or desired for the University of Guelph. Selective package is a collection where U of G has access to a selection of the titles in the collection, and an aggregator package is a collection where U of G has access to all of the titles in the collection. And on top of these definitions, we also adjust the service settings when we are overriding the e-collection types. So for selective packages, when we override it to that collection type, we do not auto-activate new portfolios, and aggregators, we adjust the settings so that they do activate new portfolios automatically. And the impact of this best practice is that although we're still working to reassign e-collection types as they come up, it's much clearer now which packages we get everything from and which we don't. And additionally, there are fewer community zone updates in the electronic portfolio deleted from non-auto-active service report, primarily because a lot of community zone database types are set to selective packages. So overriding them to aggregator packages reduces the number of lines in that report. It does increase the number of lines in the portfolio deleted from auto-active service report. However, we dismiss those lines without investigation because we actually investigate those deletions at the collection level and not the portfolio level. So in turn, there's a fair reduction of work in reviewing individual portfolio deletions due to CZ updates as a result of this best practice. Best practice number 3 is actually in 2 parts. So 3A is to rely on CDI for open access collections with link-in record CDI full text linking. So the problem is that open access e-collections receive many updates, and while we value OA and freely available content, we do not have the capacity to review all CZ updates for this free content. The reports related to this best practice is pretty much all of them. And the best practice that we've come up with is to delete all portfolios from open access or free collections that have link-in record, CDI, full text linking, and to rely exclusively on CDI for those access points. And the reason we're able to do this is that portfolios are not required in Alma for collections that have CDI, link-in record, full text linking for the CDI linking to work. And the impact of this decision is that there are fewer portfolios appearing in the electronic portfolio deleted reports, making less to review and dismiss. And the link management of these specific open access collections is no longer locally required, as Ex Libris takes care of it from the CDI end of things. So part 2 or 3B of this best practice is to add a note to supported open access e-collections. So this is related but separate from the previous best practice. The problem is that we actually want to have statistics and cost of use information for open access e-collections that we financially support. And to get this information from Alma Analytics, portfolios are required. But as mentioned in the previous best practice, we delete portfolios for all OA or free e-collections that have CDI, link-in record, full text linking. So the problem becomes how to differentiate between OA collections that we financially support, and therefore we want to retain portfolios for, and the ones that we don't. And the best practice that we came up with to resolve this is to add an open investment note to the e-collection internal description for all of the OA collections that we financially support. And the impact of this is we can now much more easily determine at a glance which OA collections we do financially support, and subsequently we can prioritize collection management for these OA collections over other OA collections. And secondly, staff can tell more easily when working with the CZ updates which OA collections are supported, because we can consult that note, and then we can adjust settings as required, since these e-collections are treated essentially like paid subscription packages. And that's everything from us. Thank you very much, and we're happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thanks so much to the both of you for your presentation. We do have one question to start us off, while others maybe are adding more. So this question comes from Matt. How are these CZ reports being generated? Analytics or some other method?
Okay, I can take this. It's part of Alma, Matt. So it is, okay, let me try to open my Alma here quickly. Maybe I should have got you a screenshot of where it is, but okay, here. Sorry, I'm having too much trouble with my computer today. Thank God that I was able to make the presentation. Okay, so it's under resources. If you are in Alma, under resources, manage inventory, there is a special tab for it called Community Zone Update Task List. So that one is generated by Alma. So we don't generate it. You come to a portfolio and you'll find something on top of each portfolio, for example, saying updates on it. And it's gonna stay there until you dismiss it. It's not gonna go anywhere. You have to dismiss them, otherwise it keeps piling, and you'll find 2 updates, 3 updates, 5 updates, and you don't really know what happened with that portfolio. And that goes for collection level, goes for all of them. So it goes for portfolio level, collection level, service level. You'll find that there is CZ updates attached on the top of that portfolio or collection level. So it happens from within Alma. Whenever the community zone push CAPE updates, it come to us. If you are subscribing to that collection, if it's in your IZ, it will come to your IZ. That's saying to you, okay, this portfolio is deleted, or this portfolio have a URL link change, or a coverage update for that journal happened. So these are the kind of updates that come. So it gets pushed to us from the community zone. We don't control it. It comes to us from Ex Libris.
All right, we have another question in chat from Tanya. They say, thanks so much for this presentation. We have experienced problems related to Ex Libris removing and then re-adding portfolios for ebooks. We find this process time-consuming to track. Do you have a specific workflow or best practice in place for when ebook or e-journal portfolios are removed and then re-added?
It's so painful.
That's what we can say.
Yeah, I was going to say it would be actually really good for OCUL members to advocate via, I'm not sure how ID Exchange perhaps, that this workflow changes. I think it's being looked at because other schools are also vocalizing that you can update without removing and re-adding. We're pretty sure you do it for other things. But yes, it is a painful process. I don't think, Iman, do we?
I think the best way to control it from your end is recognizing, like Andrea said in the presentation, recognizing what you actually have as an aggregator, that you don't really care if they add and delete. So when it just goes, it goes, and you don't care about them, and which one that you actually purchased and you want to keep, it's perpetual. So those ones, when they get deactivated, because the problem is they will stay in your IZ, but they will become local. They were not going to have the community zone linking anymore. They will become local and deactivated. And because those collections are non-auto active, the new one that you actually purchased, they bought still, like they deactivated the old one. They still have it in the community zone, but you need to figure out where it is to activate it again. So I think the best way is to recognize what collection that you purchased everything and which collection that it's selective. And you have like what we decided here, every 6 weeks, kind of a go through those reports and find out, okay, what was deleted. So you can find those deleted ones, see what's happening. You can, what we found, we can actually try to activate them again and linking them to community zone. So you activate the portfolio and say, link again. The problems happens for us when those ones have purchase orders attached. So if it didn't change that much, if the link is the same and it's just because community zone just decided to delete it, our first attempt is usually to activate it back again and link to community zone. If it links successfully, you're good, you're safe. If it didn't link, this is where the investigation needs to happen. And I think Andrea can talk about this. We had so much trouble with eBook Central changing their ID of the books. So those are the one that needed literally manual work, because you need to find out what is the correct one to activate. And if you have a purchase order, again, to move the purchase order on those ones too.
Yeah, it's a good point, Iman. I guess I would just reiterate what you said in terms of like really identify, because we're not looking at portfolios in these aggregator collections specifically, we are looking at them from a collection level, putting in those your own definitions of like, or maybe just use ours, essentially probably the same. If you get everything, it's an aggregator package, and then you're looking at it from the collection level. And for those, I know that we do for large scale collection deletions, updates, that sort of thing. I know that Ex Libris will include that information in their CKB release notes. So that's another thing that we do keep an eye on, and that does help us when it comes to large scale changes in the aggregator packages, helps us know what to reactivate, but we can do that again at the collection level versus the portfolio level. And yes, Tanya, it's a painful process for those selective packages where you have lots of portfolios and there's a lot of changes happening. So unfortunately, that's what we've got as far as best practices, and we would like to create more because it really is a challenge.
We have another question here from Marie. They say, thank you for this presentation. With practice 2, when you talk about overriding e-collection type, how do you go about doing that? Is it done in Alma or when you process the report?
It's done in Alma. It's a real easy thing. Actually, I wonder if I can just show you. Do I have time for a live demo? I have 2 minutes. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, I can show you exactly where in any. It's very easy to do. It's in Alma, and I'm just going to get something up here to actually show you. Okay, here we go. All right.
Yep.
Did I do it? You can see it? Okay, great. So I just picked any random collection. And so normally you've got this is where you land, your collection editor. In the general tab, this type here is the CZ assigned database type. And all you need to do below is click what you want to change it to. So in our case, this remains a database, but for example, you could select any of the options there. And that's how we do the overriding. And it still will, in fact, Alma does respect your override and will filter your reports or your changes to the appropriate reports based on that identifier that you put in.
While you're at it, also, Andrea, like when you change the type, remember to change the service as well. So if you decided it's going to be aggregator, you need to change your service to auto active. So like it will come in that report, because, and you know, anything that comes in that report is auto active, it's aggregator. I don't care about that. I will just dismiss them. But anything that will come in your non-auto active, those are your selective packages that you know that you don't get everything, that most probably you have your purchase orders are on the portfolio level. And these are the ones that you really want to pay attention to. So remember, if you changed your collection type, you need to change the corresponding service with it as well.
Right, that gets us right back on time. Excellent work. Thank you again to Iman and Andrea. If there's additional questions, please put those in the Q&A and we'll get to those at the open question period at the end of the conference. But we'll move on to our final presentation before the break. So if our presenters could turn their cameras on and we can identify you. Awesome. So our final presentation before the break is from Matthew Fesnak, who is the LSP and Discovery Services Librarian, Paige Roman, Collection Strategist Librarian, and Cameron Wheaton, Collection Strategist Librarian, all from McMaster. Their presentation is titled, "Why Are There So Many M&M Boxes on the Third Floor?" And I am dying to know. So thanks so much for being here, and whenever you're ready, you can get started.
Good morning, everyone. So today we're just going to go over one of our earlier attempts at shared print preservation, the complications that arose and how we dealt with it, and then move into some future collections and preservation decisions. So just kind of jumping into it, these are our M&M boxes. As you can see, we've got like 7 or 8 pallets lined up down the middle of this hallway that kind of encroaches on the student study space and is just kind of a general eyesore. If you know anything about the Mills Library, you'll know that there's also not a ton of space to go around. So these boxes are a result of a print journal's weeding storage project completed sometime last year. Fingers crossed that they were going to be sent to Downsview soon, now that we've kind of worked out, I think, most of the kinks. I don't remember the exact time frame, but as you can see, they've been here long enough for some hungry students to start poking around looking for actual M&Ms, only to be disappointed with print journals. And these 2 next photos are broken compact shelving, just to kind of give you a sense of our need to weed and look and work out a Downsview workflow moving forward. Currently, the access services staff have to kind of carefully navigate retrieving these items. So just going into a little bit of background, for those who are only vaguely familiar with Keep at Downsview, it's a shared print storage and preservation facility currently being used by 5 universities in Ontario and 1 in Newfoundland. When libraries are looking to weed materials, they can, like check to see if a copy already exists in Downsview and then send or discard their local copy. The boxes are one of our first attempts at working with U of T to make our metadata comparable or compatible with their tools to get rid of our print journals. Mal will go into a little more detail in a second, but for any schools looking to move their materials into Downsview or another shared storage facility, I would suggest you make sure that you actually have a good amount of space to store your materials on site for a little longer than anticipated, just because it takes time to, work out workflows, especially for new endeavors, and there might be some unexpected delays. Mills Library is also undergoing a feasibility study right now for some future potential much needed renovations or space changes. And part of that process is coming up with a number of titles that can be moved to storage or discarded. And our partnership with Keep at Downsview will be key in that regard. And then just going over our past and potential future collection strategy. As with most schools, we used to collect a lot more print, but we've since moved to an e-preferred strategy for wider access and based on usage. Moving forward, we're only looking to really pick up print when there's no e-copy and in areas that will actually circulate and see usage, but never to the degree that we were before. And we're also currently exploring ways to clean up the reports in Alma for weeding reports and figure out how to integrate them into our current workflows for easier future weeding. And off to you, Matt.
So with this project, we've had a lot of constraints trying to reach our goals, and in the past, we were all sort of on different systems. McMaster was on Sierra, and U of T was on Symphony, and a lot of other partners were on Voyager. And matching titles thus far has been done by creating a list of our local system and then manually searching U of T's. So if you're familiar with like how clothing is always like produced by a human because robots can't really figure it out, we've had like the same issue with matching titles at Downsview, that humans have to go through all these lists that automated processes thus far haven't created reliable reports. We've tried sort of Green Glass and Gold Rush, both produce bad results. That Green Glass just like had this wrong data all over the place. It was really kind of awful. We started like pulling titles from the shelf and like boxing them according to different categories that Green Glass created, but then realized halfway through that it was all sort of like inaccurate. And a lot of those issues are just sort of like stemming from not being a part of U of T's library system and sort of accessing their data indirectly. We send our metadata to U of T and rely on their staff to handle our requests. They're also managing exchanges with 40+ U of T libraries. Thus far, Downsview is sort of loaded with like 99 point something % of U of T's materials, and then only a small handful of materials from the other partners. More automation is needed to reach the goals that McMaster has, including increasing student and staff space, reducing our print footprint, and then not having storage spaces beyond Downsview. Currently, we're paying for like a warehouse in Hamilton that's got like bird populations. When we take books back, sometimes there's like poop on the boxes. Definitely not as like high tech as Downview's like climate controlled facility. So currently working through the serials metadata process. We've had like issues with enumeration and chronology, and then also just sort of like cataloger and idiosyncrasies over the years. So I've used different tools to clean up these issues. One thing that's sort of very helpful is this item updater from Excel, and basically it makes API calls on your behalf, so you don't have to like learn how to use that. But sort of one thing I'd want to show is that like the documentation is pretty useless. That you can see from these pictures, it just says like item updater by Excel. They built this to like try and help people who aren't familiar with APIs, but then just like didn't provide any documentations for people to like actually figure that out. So I'm gonna do a live demo as well, just to keep things consistent. And I found that you can actually, in order to know what fields to update, you have to sort of go through all these hoops to get there. And so if you go in the item updater, you click on this info and go to their GitHub page, and go to the issues tab, closed issue. There's one question here: what fields can be updated? And then you could find a link. This is where they answered how to update the fields. So basically, when you do when you create a spreadsheet and you want to update books, you have to use these fields and just sort of copy these headings as your heading in the spreadsheet.
Sorry to interrupt. We can't, if you're sharing your screen for a demo, we can only see the presentation.
Damn it. Sorry, I'm used to Teams screen sharing.
That looks better.
Okay, yeah, so anyways, to update the fields, you have to use these this API documentation, which is helpful. Okay, so you see my PowerPoint now or no?
Yes.
Okay. And I'll hand it over to Cameron, talking about collection strategies.
Yeah, hi. Thanks. The challenges that Matt and Paige have discussed so far come from just one of the various consortia and partnerships that we participate at McMaster University Libraries, and they all have an impact on our collection development and management strategies. As has already sort of been discussed extensively, McMaster is part of the Keep It at Downsview partnership with our fellow OCUL institutions and Memorial University. But that's limited in terms of what we can do for collection, executing our collection management strategies, largely because it's focused solely on retaining and preserving a single copy of important low-use print serials and monographs. But at the same time, we also participate in North, the Canadian Shared Print Network. And this network is comprised of academic, public, and government libraries that aim to identify print materials in each participating library's collections to retain and preserve. At this time, the print identified from participating member collections fall into 3 different project streams: government documents, Indigenous work, and Canadiana, which aims to identify and preserve monographs produced by Canadian university presses. And within OCUL, we're a member of Collaborative Futures, of course, whereas Robin mentioned soon to be 19 university libraries share in, I guess this number will have to change, over 25 million physical titles, and the infrastructure for managing them in Alma. And within that, further, there's been features like the automated fulfillment network that have been built to ensure that users from any CF school can easily request a physical title from any institution. And even beyond that, within OCUL itself, beyond Collaborative Futures, OCUL itself, there's increased discussions and working groups forming that are sort of determined on developing more collaborative or collective collecting as it goes forward. While print material sharing may be considered out of the scope at this time, it seems like there's a growing acceptance amongst consortia that academic library collections extend beyond just one institution. Next slide, please. And then with that in mind, our participation in these partnerships and consortia requires us to factor in different policies and criteria from those various different groups and efforts to implement in our own collection strategies. It's become clear that any collection development or management strategies we implement will need to take greater consideration for what efforts and plans are put in place with our partner institutions. Within the Keep It a Downsview partnership, we believe the success in carrying out our collection management strategies will be improved by increased coordination and collaboration with other participating members. It would be beneficial to know what strategies our partners have employed so far and whether Keep It a Downsview has helped them to realize their collection management and print preservation strategies so far. And we're also happy to engage in discussions on how best to continue to automate the process of title matching and metadata cleanup for titles selected to go to Downsview. But also beyond that, as Collaborative Futures continues to grow and be shaped by the efforts of so many different institutions, we believe it's beneficial to find opportunities to engage and communicate with other members on what collection development management goals are moving forward. Collection management within the consortium that shares so much print material is better served by greater coordination and awareness of what each institution is planning to do with their print collections. We're hoping we can encourage more conversations about what resources institutions are prioritizing for acquisition, retention, and preservation. We've accepted that it's not possible to collect comprehensively, and there are too many opportunities for there are too many possibilities for important rare material to be lost to our users if we all go down our own path for weeding or right sizing projects and existing solely within the bubble of one institution. We're hoping to encourage more discussions on the matter so that down the line, when you're carrying out a collection management project at your institution, some poor student working late on paper or exams isn't lured in by a box thinking there's candy inside, only to be disappointed when they find print books inside. Thank you so much for having us today, and we're happy to take time to have any questions or engage in any discussion before the break.
Thank you so much, Matt, Paige, and Cameron. Sorry to hear about the bird poop on the boxes, and other people are surprised to hear about that too. We're running up to time for the break, so if there are any questions, put them in the chat, and I will flag those to be answered during the final Q&A session at the end of the conference. But we'll move into our break now, which is 15 minutes. So we will reconvene at 11 o'clock for the second half of our conference. So enjoy your break. We'll see you back at 11 o'clock.
Hi, everyone. welcome back from break. Thanks for an excellent first session. Thank you very much to our presenters. Before we move on to the next session, I also wanted to welcome all of our colleagues from the Ontario colleges who have been able to join us. It's really great to be able to have this shared time together, and we really hope that there will be more opportunities like this in the future. So thank you and welcome. I will now hand over to Kaylee, who will be moderating the second session.
Hi, everyone. My name's Kaylee Follis, and I'm a librarian at Guelph, and I'll be moderating the second half. So let's go ahead and kick things off with Johanna Whitson and Alexa Evans with their presentation, Big Picture of Alma Workflows. Over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just get my screen
I
shared.
just wanted to confirm that everyone can hear, see us, and Johanna will be showing the slides in just a second.
And of course, it's always so much more stressful on the spot.
Yes, well, Johanna and I both have new laptops and we're getting used to them, so please bear with us. I should also mention I'm in Nova Scotia this week, so I am in my hotel room, so there could be disruptions or the Wi-Fi could totally go on me. So my apologies in advance. Okay, so welcome. This is the presentation on the big picture of Alma workflow dissection in Alma workflows and post migration and pandemic. Okay. And Johanna, okay.
Sorry.
There we go.
So I'll just start us off with the land acknowledgement. I wanted to say that the University of Waterloo acknowledges that much of our work takes place on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our main campus is situated on the Haldimand Tract, the land granted to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. Our active work towards reconciliation takes place across our campuses through research, learning, teaching, and community building, and is coordinated within the Office of Indigenous Relations.
Okay, and just so you all know who we are, I'm Alexa Evans. My role at the University of Waterloo is Acquisitions Manager. Johanna, you would like to introduce yourself?
Hi, and I'm Johanna Whitson. I'm the head of cataloging and metadata services.
Okay, and we'll just briefly go over the agenda. We'll dive into the history and context for it, just so people know and are aware of all of the Alma difficulties we've had over the last few years. We'll also go over what Alma governance is, which is kind of unique to Waterloo, and the impact of the unclear processes we've had in the last few years post-pandemic and post-migration. We'll also explore our case study of the new books workflow and how we plan to apply that to a wider process. And then afterwards, we'll have some time for Q&A. So we'll just go to the 5th slide, the history. Okay.
Joanna, before you move on, I don't know if it's just me, but we can see your presenter screen.
Oh, goodness.
Click back.
Thank you. And can you still see it?
I
no,
can
you can see slides
okay.
now. Right.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that.
It looks good. Yeah. Okay. So as most of you probably know, we migrated to Alma from Voyager in December of 2019. As we all know, there was a global pandemic in March of 2020, and our staff was sent to work from home. So it was about 3 months of going live, and there was not much Alma training. And there were lots of technical challenges owing to the fact that we weren't really given the proper technology, or our staff wasn't cobbling together workflows and such, and it was hard to work from home. Our teams are absolutely amazing, and we can gush all day long about them. They're very hardworking, but the impact of the work from home made the workflows very siloed. And then there was also a lack of support from managers, and we were all very short-staffed. The positions were vacant at the time. Both of our positions were vacant at the time. So as for the two of it, Johanna went on leave for a year starting in December of 2019 and returned in January of 2021. And she went on leave the week of the migration. And then I was at U of T during 2020, helping with their system migration to Alma. And I started the job at Waterloo in January of 2021, which was the week of U of T go live date. So both of us had kind of a whiplash from all of that, going from a go live environment to an actual working environment. And we've suddenly thrust into overseeing staff, where staff had been kind of cobbling together their workflows for a year. They've been in the system trying to work on those, trying to do their jobs without much support. And they often knew the system better than we did, even though we were both on the training teams of our respective institutions. So after we found our feet in this new environment, it was obvious that there were pain points between units. So we'll go to what is Alma governance here. At Waterloo, we have Alma governance team. I believe it is fairly unique to us. So Alma governance was formed in 2020 and then transitioned from implementation to actual activities on Alma. And this was one of the lessons we learned from the old TUG system, which was Wilfrid Laurier, Guelph, and us. And we really believe strongly the importance of overall governance, the communication and coordination of policies and systems, the vendor management, and especially the need to have leadership to steer the ship. For Alma governance, there are two technical chairs. The co-lead allow knowledge exchange over the wider library and consortia level. We actively brainstorm, we share tags, we can stagger terms to lessen the learning curve. And the rest of the committee was formed of the technical leads of each area. And most people from the training system that knew the system quite well as it was founded to coordinate the flow of information post-migration to help support the work of the senior systems administrator.
Sorry to interrupt again, Alexa, with the slides have flipped back over to the presenter view. I know that you can't see the chat. So
yeah. Do you have a recommendation for how to fix that?
I think if you go to share your screen, you should be able to, underneath it, there should be or next to it, there should be a change share, I think is what it's called. And you should be able to choose a different screen.
Yeah, that's what I have it just chosen as our PowerPoint presentation.
You might need to choose it as screen 2.
That's, I think, what I have.
Displayed, Julian says display settings. You can swap the display. Yep.
Okay, so
okay, well, I'll continue on.
You keep going. Sorry about that.
Okay. So we use the existing infrastructure, but we make sure that we include all our affiliated colleges in conversations as well. So Johanna and myself were named co-lead. She was named in 2021 after she came back from leave, and I was named after in 2022. We had a technical services review in the fall of 2022, and one recommendation was to streamline Alma practices, which kind of frustrated some of the managers that they found it too vague. Like I had managers complaining about it, like, what does that mean? Couldn't they give us something more concrete? So we actively kind of took this in our portfolio as Alma governance leads. So I'm at the impact of unclear processes, which was slide 1, and I'll just pick it up there. The staff were working hard post-migration and work from home in order to really make things work. And they were really trying to make their old workflows work in their new system, and obviously that doesn't work in Alma. The manager supports weren't there, the acquisition manager and the metadata head of metadata services, Joanne's position were both vacant, and the on-site staff were doing new tasks to them on the new system. They might be the only person who's only physically at the building in our system. So eventually units were adapting to Alma and its workflows, but managers and staff know it, that the interdepartmental workflows and handoffs were very, very messy. So I'll go to the next slide, the impact of unclear processes. Part 2. Okay, the next one, Johanna?
Yep, it should be flipped, if you're seeing what I'm seeing.
It's the first one, so just, I think.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the fall of 2022, the issues that were reported from circulation that the new books were being lost in transit and the patrons were not being notified of the new material arriving. Also, rush and course books reserves were, course reserve books were being misrouted and being lost in transit, which was a massive problem. As our roles oversaw the new book workflow, we were very keenly aware of the pain points between the units and the fact that the handoffs weren't working well. At first, we kind of tried to band-aid the issues by catching the new items stuck in transit through a new report, but then we realized the issue was much deeper and the other units were also experiencing handoff issues. Okay, and I'll flip it over to Johanna for the rest of the presentation.
Thank you. Apologies for the technical difficulties. So as the Alma governance co-leads, Alexa and I began exploring ways that we could facilitate better understanding across our 2 units and figure out the root cause of some of the issues we were experiencing. So we chose to first evaluate the process that a new print book goes through from the point of a request for purchase to arriving on the shelf or in the hands of the user. The first step we took was to identify who we thought were the key players across the 3 units, looking at acquisitions, cataloging, and circulation, and then set up a time to meet and explain what our plan was to them. So we spoke with the department heads for these units to also let them know that this work was being undertaken and the time commitment that we anticipated it would involve. We were very conscious of the time because we were attempting to create a process that we could be repeated by our colleagues, and we really didn't want this to feel daunting or overwhelming. So our goal was for the time investment to be manageable and for the outcomes from each meeting to be really clear and feel achievable. Scope creep was another huge consideration. So this process was really fantastic for identifying issues that would benefit from additional discussion, but that were not directly related to the material type or the process that we were looking at. So in order to keep things moving towards making incremental improvements, we needed to really make sure that we were staying focused on a limited set of issues. We really wanted people doing the frontline work to lead the discussion and feel empowered to propose solutions. At this point, we probably did have overrepresentation from our different units and could have moved things forward with fewer participants. But some of the other things we hope to accomplish in this initial process was to build some better relationships across the unit, for staff to become more familiar with the roles that each of their colleagues was performing, and to develop some really clear ideas of who to contact when there are questions or issues that needed to be resolved. And this was also the first time these 3 units were brought together in this kind of way since our initial Alma training in 2019. So the first meeting we had was a half-an-hour overview of the plan, the end goal and what we wanted to achieve, our rules of engagement, collaboratively identifying what would be a manageable scope, determining if there was anybody else who should be taking part in these meetings who wasn't currently in the room, as well as setting what the agenda and the homework would be for the next meeting. So we really wanted to make sure everybody was super aware of the role that they were going to play. The second meeting we had was 90 minutes, and this time we did a complete in-person walkthrough of our entire processes, start to finish. Where it was helpful, we traveled to staff's workstations to watch how they conducted their work. And the goal here was not to propose any solutions, do any problem solving, or get too far into the weeds with questions. But staff were asked to note down the areas where they were confused or had suggestions or felt that further discussion was needed. So this walkthrough revealed some redundancies in our processes, things that we thought probably could be automated, and it identified where steps were being completed in sort of like a less ideal place or out of order in the larger process. So the third meeting was hybrid, and we spent the first half working through all of the discussion questions that had come up in our previous in-person walkthrough. So this was a chance to sort of dig into all of those things that people had thought about during that meeting. Some of the prompting questions that we had were things like, did you notice any steps that were duplicated or redundant? Did anything seem like it was done out of order? Are there places in the process where things are vulnerable to human error that we might want to pay more attention to, and those kind of things. From there, we worked together to identify 1 to 3 aspects that we thought had the potential for improvement that we wanted to do further investigation on, while also keeping in mind whether it was a cross-departmental change or if it was just one unit, if they could handle that independently, as well as making sure that it was within scope of the work that we were doing. So we settled on looking at our interested user workflow and the number of times things are being physically checked. The second half of the meeting was spent doing another hands-on walkthrough of these 2 identified aspects in much more detail. And this time around, we could ask all of the questions, make all of the suggestions, and really dig into the processes and what different ideas we might have for how we were handling things. We did give people homework from this session. We asked people to do some reading about how other institutions and ex libris handle these processes, as well as we created some test orders to see how making the changes to the process could impact how the items were handled. We did get derailed on meeting number 4. Unfortunately, the new acquisitions workbench was released right at the same time as we came together to see how our test had gone. So we did need to go back and retrace some of our steps in the new environment. So this wasn't an unexpected wrench in the plan, but it actually did end up providing an opportunity for some great conversation and learning from each other about how we were experiencing this new environment and what we had learned. So once we settled on the changes that we wanted to make an experiment with, and that there had been consensus about, we all agreed that this would be an improvement to the process, meeting 5 involved discussing who we thought would need to be notified about these changes and through what channels should we be doing those communications. In the case of the notify workflow, we made sure to inform all library staff, as well we had liaison librarians discuss with users when they're making purchase requests, so that way they understand the changes that have been made in the process. Since anybody who does make a notify request, so they're asking to be notified when material comes in, they receive an email saying where they can find that material. We didn't do campus-wide communication because we felt that anybody who this applied to would be getting the relevant information that way. And then for the manual checking processes that we did on the items, we didn't feel that there was really a need to communicate beyond our 3 units because given the number of times we were checking the books, we really didn't think that there was going to be a measurable impact by decreasing that a little bit. So we did meet one last time a couple months later to debrief on how the pilot had gone, any issues that had come up, and identified several changes that we needed to make due to unexpected complications that came up. We do continue to have some conversations about the changes as new scenarios are coming up. So this sort of 6-meeting agenda that we put together wasn't entirely inclusive of all of the times we needed to discuss the changes. But it's really nice because now we know who to talk to and we have a much better ability to sort of problem solve and manage discussions because we're much more familiar with each other's work. And we're also using the same language and understanding. So some additional things to consider with the meetings that we felt led to the successful working through this project included setting really clear agendas ahead of time and sharing any discussion questions so that colleagues came prepared to jump into the conversation, being really clear about what role each person was going to play in the meeting. So things like who was going to bring in the examples, who was going to be in control of the screen while doing the walkthrough, and things like that. We also checked in at the end of each meeting to determine if colleagues felt like they needed more time with the current agenda or if we felt ready to move on to the next meeting. We'd also agreed on the scope of the project and the meetings, and so having a facilitator who was able to bring the conversation back into focus when other interesting topics came up was really helpful, as well making sure that everybody understood the terminology and ensuring that we sort of had the same comprehension of technical terms, because it's always interesting to find out that a conversation got derailed or confusion was created because the same term is being used for slightly different concepts. So it's really important to make sure that we're all sort of using the same language. So our goal was to create a program that was repeatable for our library colleagues. So we have created a packet that includes communication templates, how to get things started, as well as our sample meeting agendas and objectives. So the goal is that we can work with our Alma governance area leads and have them sort of implement this program within their units where they feel a need for some process enhancements. As part of this project, we also wanted to identify the problematic processes that need to be delved into and create some conversation spaces about how we were going to tackle these issues. So we did conduct a survey with all library staff to understand what areas colleagues were struggling with our Alma processes. The goal of the survey was to look at our cross-departmental issues to better understand what our pain points are and what processes staff already had ideas for improvement around as well. Do people feel like they understand these larger processes that we do? What's working well that we're doing, as well as if there were any communication needs that folks were hoping to have addressed. We had very insightful results from the survey, but I wouldn't necessarily say they're surprising, and I wouldn't be surprised if many people in Alma are also experiencing these things. But some of the overall themes we found were that ex libris documentation can be difficult to understand how it should be interpreted and incorporated into our practices and processes. Respondents really want to participate in more knowledge sharing and more collaboration and to really understand more how each other works. A lot of people were really happy with the new capabilities we have with Alma and the powerful tools around DARA task recommendations, analytics, and all of that kind of thing. So that was a huge improvement that was noted. And there's still things that we're doing that were set up in a particular way because of the pandemic. So some of our policies and timelines for material do need to be looked at because they assume an environment where in-person activities in the library were somewhat limited. The staff also identified some key areas where respondents wanted to do further investigation, which I've listed on the slide there. So with the results from our survey, we're going to work with the Alma governance area leads to identify our key issues that need to be addressed. There are some responses on the survey that only really pertain to one unit. And so in those cases, the information will be passed on to the area lead and they can kind of work internally to address them. We're really looking at how do we facilitate those larger conversations when it does impact multiple units and we need to navigate across department boundaries. The next steps will include identifying which department and staff will be required for looking into the different flagged processes and where staffing requirements overlap, prioritizing the processes that are either high impact or that have capacity to take something like this on right now. The last step of this process, once we've identified the high priority workflows, will be to partner with the staff to provide training on how to use the resources we put together, including how they might want to adapt things to their own needs. We'll also be offering to help facilitate conversations in an area where Alma leads maybe don't have the time or the aptitude to take something like this on, or if there is the sense that there's a chance things could get off track or escalating tensions around workflows and that kind of thing. So in conclusion, we found that having a clearly mapped out process with a start and an end point and really clearly defined agendas and milestones really helped with the level of overwhelm you can feel when sort of embarking on workflow revisions. This approach allowed us to make these little snack size improvements to processes, as well as build the relationships and common understanding that will help continued process revision and problem solving in the future. And with that, if you have any questions, we have a couple minutes now to answer them.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Johanna and Alexa. I found that presentation very interesting and definitely something I want to try. We do have one question so far from Annabelle D. You mentioned early in the presentation that you had a technical service review, which determined that you needed a small group to convene workflows. Who initiated the review / determined a review was necessary?
I'm happy to take this, Alexa, unless you're... It was actually something that we had thought about for a little while before the migration, but we wanted to wait until we were through to the new Alma environment, and then a pandemic happened. So it got, things kept shuffling along a little bit. Part of it was because probably about 7 or 8 years ago, we made some structural changes, and we wanted to do a check-in on how that was going around moving the receiving department into the cataloging department. And we also really felt that with the pandemic, with the change to Alma, with all of the things happening, we really wanted to kind of put a capstone on those experiences and just sort of see how are staff feeling, how are things working, and those kind of things. So that was sort of why we decided to do it. It was sort of the AUL who oversees a lot of the technical services units who sort of brought the idea up, but it is something that had been floating for a little while before that.
And I should also mention there was a circulation review recently. I'm not really a part of that, but just to put it out there.
Okay, just a reminder for people, if they have questions, go ahead and post them in the chat. We have a few more minutes, or you can raise your hand and unmute. We do have a comment from Alex who says, very interesting workflow to look at workflows, something that could be useful in more places across OCUL for sure. I'm sure many people feel that too. I do have a question if there's nobody else. I'm curious, you mentioned briefly the DARA task recommender, and I'm just curious what you're doing with that right now. That's been something that's been on my list since we migrated. So
I would recommend connecting with some of my department staff. They're really involved with the DARA recommendations, but we've used it quite a lot to clean up things, a lot of things where, we had a portfolio that we were hosting and the links atrophy, but something was available in the community zone. So it does a really good job of making some of those recommendations and helping to clean up records where we're hosting in the institution zone. But we have the option to handle a different way. So definitely I can connect you with some folks who are working very hands-on with that.
Yeah,
Yes,
and in
please.
acquisition, we use it just to make sure that we have enough seats for ebooks or have enough copies of books. If we know that there's a lot of holes, we'll send that information over to the book selector to say, okay, look, there's 10 holes on it. What do you want to do with the collection? What do you want to buy more resources, et cetera, et cetera. So we actively facilitate those conversations with the DARA recommendations. My only complaint is they don't come often enough. It just seems like they come every 3 months or something like that, at least on my view of Alma. I'll have to check into that.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions, so I think we will keep moving on, but thank you very much, Johanna and Alexa.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's great being here.
So our next presentation is improving accessible discovery and reading experiences with Bart Kawula, Mark Weiler, Nancy Wade, as well as team members who are attending but not presenting, Cindy Shen, David Kemper, Debbie Lawler, Dylan Moore, and Matt Thomas. Over to you.
Great, thank you. Can you hear me, Kaylee? Okay,
We
great.
can, yeah.
Now I'll share my screen. And okay, just 1 second. So can you see, oops. Well, can you see a screen?
Yes, can see your presentation, just not in presenter mode.
Okay, there we go. Is that good? And there should be a little click that just indicates a slide transition for anyone's viewing it without sight. Are we good to go? So it's over to Nancy.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Fantastic. So welcome to our presentation, Request Alternate Format. There are several of us that are here today that are not part of our presentation. We have David Kemper, Debbie Lawler, Dylan Moore, Cindy Shen, and Matt Thomas. Bart Kula and Mark Weiler and myself will be presenting today. So what is this link? The request alternate format for print disabled users link attached to all of the circulating and journal items in our catalog is a user-friendly tool that allows library users with print disabilities to request alternate formats of these items seamlessly. The information is auto-populated, so the user is only required to fill in their name, email address, the information they require, and optionally, the barrier they experienced. This streamlined process reduces the work that the user is required to do and the work the staff is needed to do. The information is complete and accurate, and the staff members can easily link to the original record if they require more information. The request alternate format link also reminds our students that alternate formats are readily available. It's a clear message that they don't have to navigate this process on their own, as support is readily available. Additionally, it acts as an advertisement for students who may not be aware of this service. Next. So let's take a look at a user and staff workflow. Just a note, these screenshots are for Laurier. Ours at McMaster are set up a bit differently. This is to say that the request alternate format link is highly customizable. It can be tailored to suit different institutions' unique needs and preferences. This flexibility is a key feature of the link, making it adaptable to various settings and user requirements. So the user clicks on the request alternate format for print disabled users link. Next, the user logs in with their name, email, and ACE token. Users can learn more about ACE if they do not have a token. And if they do have a token, they can log in with their token and proceed. The interesting thing about this is that users can't just enter random text into this field. And Bart will tell us more about this in a minute. So once users have logged in, they will let us know the service that they want. The bibliographic information about the item is auto-populated, and then the user can select the format that they would like. The user also has space to add any specifics about the barrier they have encountered or the transcription that they need. Once they've entered the information, 2 required and 1 optional, they submit the form and it heads to the Library Accessibility Services office. Next. The information is then sent to the local institution where they can decide how to proceed with the request. So for us, this year, we've received close to 60 requests in this manner. Many of these requests we've submitted to ACE for digitization, and some we've processed in-house. Others we just directed to our textbook screen. Next. So beyond providing users with information and a way to request alternate formats, the request alternate format for print disabled users link provides evidence-based metrics and records the frequency and barriers experienced by library users with print disabilities. Collecting information individually, however, would only show local institutional situations and barriers. By working together, we can identify larger themes and potentially leverage this information to improve these resources. Next. But where did it come from? So inaccessible user experiences led to the collaboration. So many years ago, I had a student who registered with LAS, Library Accessibility Services. Upon registration, the user was given an ACE, Accessible Content Portal token, as all students registered with LAS are. This student came through my door a few minutes, out of breath, asking if it were really true, if my email were actually true and he could request any title he was interested in reading. He had never been able to obtain more than the required textbooks up to that point. This student went on to request many computer programming books from the 80s and graduated with a computer science degree. In part due to this student's experiences and seeing the barriers he faced, Debbie Lawler and I created the request alternate format link in 2014. This original link allowed students to have a reminder that they could request this title in alternate format and easily make that request. In the 7 years the link was active in our former catalog, it was a popular service for our department, and we missed it right after the launch of Alma. During the year and a half that we did not have an integrated alternate format request form, our annual requests dropped from 202 requests to 0. They bounced back up to 58 requests during this past academic year after our collaboration, and I hope they will go even higher as students learn more about the services and what the service does. I think this form is also very important to support the intellectual freedom of students with disabilities, ensuring that they are provided with the same access to educational resources as those without print disabilities.
So in fall 2023, Laurier launched a library remediation service, and unlike McMaster, it doesn't do course readings. And so we also at this time added the get alternative format link to Omni, which goes to the form on our Drupal site as Nancy demonstrated. And in 2024, it's been used around 60 times, largely for books, but for some journal articles too. The Omni project stemmed from a collaboration with a psychology grad student, Ashley Shaw, name shared with permission, for her master's scoping review. For her master's scoping review, only a small fraction of the items that she needed were born accessible, and I contributed to the remediation of over 200 of the items. So this started a process, this awareness of a user experience started a movement towards this get alternative format link at Omni. Around this time too, the Laurier Library had hired Ashley as a web accessibility advisor, and she drew our attention to unintentional harmful messages sent when libraries require users with print disabilities to use separate processes from their peers to access library materials. Now, to be clear, we recognize that the importance of having multiple avenues to connect users with library remediation services. Our focus was on the reliance on those, while discovery layers evolved without features for users with print disabilities. And in response, we conceptualized a PDF pit stop. Oh, I have to jump ahead. We conceptualized a PDF pit stop with 3 features. First is integration. Remediation workflows can be started within a library platform. And at this time, I knew about the University of Manitoba's library that had an example of this Git alternative format link. The second feature of a PDF pit stop is verification. Quality assurance mechanisms are built into the pit stop. Third, communication. Pit stops raise awareness to enable collaborative library improvement. Bart Kavula from Scholars Portal, Matt Thomas from Laurier, and Etta Quack from New College joined the team. And then at an OCUL event, Nancy Waite and Paige Maylott shared McMaster's Get Accessible Copy initiative. But then, as Nancy said, when McMaster joined Omni in 22, they lost it, and Nancy raised this with the CF Accessibility Working Group, leading to this Laurier-McMaster partnership. And the team now includes Debbie Lawler, David Kemper, Nancy Waite from McMaster, and Cindy Shen, Dylan Moore, Matt Thomas, and myself from Laurier, and Bart Kavula from Scholars Portal also joined the collaboration. And that's over. Oh, sorry, I was behind some slides. But that's over to you, Bart.
Great, thank you. Slide, please. Yes. So one of the user experience challenges that McMaster faced was confusing general users with a request form only intended for those registered with library accessibility services. Debbie Lawler had the great idea to use ACE tokens to validate the users, since everyone with an ACE token would already be registered with accessibility services. She was planning to just read the tokens from a static file, but the tokens expire, and so maintaining an updated list of tokens would have been difficult. Since we already have a token validation API that the Scholars Portal Books platform uses, it was fairly trivial to open that API to anyone else who needs it. Right now, McMaster and Laurier are using it for their remediation request forms, and the Internet Archive is using it for controlling access to their accessible content collection. The other integration is the request logging API. As part of our work on the PDF pit stop, we wanted one of the outcomes to be data that we could, or that would show us areas where accessibility needs are not getting met or flagging problematic publishers. With that in mind, we thought it would be great to save the anonymized request form data in a central place. And so we created an API that collects these requests along with their Alma PNX records. Using a document database, we can then query the submitted PNX records across institutions to see the types of materials getting requested. Slide, please. In this slide, you can see the contents of a request log. McMaster was keen to store, sorry, pardon me. McMaster was keen to store some of their local form data, like sources tried and formats requested, and you can see that it's quite tiny, but it's at the top there. Below that data is the entire contents of the Alma PNX record. Slide, please. As you can see, there are a lot of interesting fields that we can query, like content type, subject, sources, and collections. Slide, please. With the data we have, we can already generate reports. Out of curiosity, I asked ChatGPT to organize all of the extracted subject headings from Laurier's logs into broader categories. And the top three were English literature, social studies, and public health. That's over to you, Mark.
So collaboration is at the heart of this initiative, and we hope OCUL members will consider adopting both the link and integration within the Scholars Portal if it works for your context. And so feel free to reach out to Bart, Nancy, or myself. We also encourage you to discuss how this initiative can help more roles in the library ecosystem participate in removing obstacles. So for example, how can it provide acquisition and collection librarians with evidence-based metrics? How can it identify excellence within OCUL, like libraries doing great work with remediating to MP3? How can it show where support is needed for local staff doing remediation work? And how can it notify subject librarians about problems in their areas? As someone who wears a subject librarian hat, I want to know about the obstacles in our library ecosystem so I can adapt my instruction, reference, and collection practices. And I ask the other OCUL subject librarians, would you like to collaborate on this? I also encourage us to recognize its potential within the wider ecosystem that's emerging. For example, could it align with the Federal Equitable Access to Reading Program? Acknowledgements. Since collaboration is at the heart of this, we also want to extend our thanks to the University of Manitoba Library for imagining and making the customization package a reality, to Debbie Lawler at McMaster and Cindy Shen at Laurier for adapting and developing code so it works within our OCUL context, to local remediators who are responding at our respective libraries, and to everyone across OCUL and beyond who are also advancing accessible reading experiences, and to everyone joining these efforts. And thank you to the users with print disabilities who have and are sharing their experiences with libraries. And with that, if there's any questions.
Okay, great. So we do have two questions already. The first comes from Colleen McKinnon. Thanks for sharing McMaster's number of requests. Curious to know Laurier's numbers.
In 2024, through the Omni path, and there's a person can go directly to the website and submit. So this, I'm just going to focus on the Omni path. I believe it's around 59, mostly books, but I think it was 7 journal articles.
And Dawn has commented here that Laurier Library has received 71 requests for digitization and remediation so far in 2024.
Okay, thank you, Dawn.
We do have a question too from Matt Van Ass from Guelph. Do you have some implementation documents available somewhere, docs, platform, Git repo, specifically around ACE integration?
Art, do you want
to? We don't, but if you're interested, you can contact me. It's a very simple API that just accepts post requests out of whatever form you're using.
I just want to mention to Dawn, who'd responded to the early question, is doing local remediation at Laurier. So.
And Colleen McKinnon is just wondering if it's shared on Spot Docs.
Not at this stage. We did, the CF Docs Discovering User Experience group has put together this as kind of part of a response about integrating ACE into Omni. So it's an accompanying document that will be with that I believe lists all the code, and it's the documents kind of the user path through it. But we're happy to share the information.
Definitely seems like there's a lot of interest with this one, and thank you so much for your work and your presentation. This is incredibly useful. We do have another question come through here, but we are actually at time, so we will save this one from Susan till the open Q&A at the end. And with that, we will we'll move on to the next presentation. LendIT, the all-in-one solution for self-serve, with Marie-Hélène Tanguay-Bérubé, a systems librarian from the University of Ottawa. So over to you.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, we hear you.
Okay, sharing. Okay, so I'm presenting LendIT, the all-in-one solution for self-serve, the overall experience at uOttawa. But first, let's go to the agenda. I will start briefly with the new LEAS campus and the initial requirements for the new library, the specification about the old locker project, the different products on the market, why we chose this solution, the Alma configuration too. I'll present videos on what the machine can do, problems with we had throughout the implementation, circulation statistics, and finishing with my lessons learned and next steps. The LEAS campus opened in fall 2023. The new LEED Platinum certified building is the new home of the Faculty of Health Sciences. The 5 schools are grouped together, and the building accommodates about 5,000 students and professors. The LEAS campus is located between the main campus and the Faculty of Medicine. Therefore, it was important to offer library services on site so that users do not have to travel to other libraries. Prior to the construction of the building, the uOttawa libraries established that there should be individual and group study spaces, meeting room, and offices for research librarians. It was also essential to install a machine that will manage documents for the course reserve and holds, as there will be no circulation desk and no permanent staff on site. As you can see, the Old Lockers project started in March 2022 with the discussion on the requirements. After posting the request of proposal, we received 2 submissions. We evaluate both of them and select the solution that best suited our needs, following by the ID security assessments. The machine was acquired in September 22 and then installed in July 23 at the end of the construction of the building. Until the opening of the campus, we carried out the configuration and tested the different features. Here are the technical requirements: that the machine must have a capacity of storage of 200 spaces, about 175 for the reserve and 25 for all requests. It must be able to add items of several sizes, up to 11 by 13 by 4 inches thick, allow checkout and check-in, manage course reserve automatically, out-shelf functionality, bilingual interface, French and English, must be compatible with barcoded items and compatible with Alma. There are a few solutions on the market. The old lockers on the picture is very similar to the pickup solution in retail stores. And there are several models proposing different functionalities using RFID tags or not. Some machines can be customized according to our needs by selecting different box sizes, or even in terms of functionality such as holds, checkout course reserve documents, laptops, loans, and returns. Depending on the solution, it can be more difficult to manage items in the reserve. However, these solutions take a lot of place and will probably contain less than 100 slots for our space. The other solution is very similar to a vending machine. There are also several solutions, but some are most suitable for public libraries than academic libraries. The model on the left does not allow holds, only books, checkout, and returns. The way it works, if users want to check out items, they scan their library card, the door will open, they take the desired items, and it will be on loan automatically in patron's account. Models on the right allow holds and manage items in reserve. The user can retrieve items using the touchscreen. All these machines don't take a lot of space and offer a maximum of 200 slots, but the checkout and check-in functionalities need items with RFID tags to work. After evaluating the submissions, we selected a project manufactured by DTEC named LendIT. It's a lending machine capable of processing requested items, and it allows the circulation of items from the reserve. This is our machine at the uOttawa. You can see on the picture on the right. The machine has a maximum of 200 slots. The trays can support up to 50 pounds. Use barcodes for hold and returns. It prints receipts and communicates with Alma using SIP2 protocol. But since LendIT is a vending machine style solution, it involves putting RFID tags in every item going in the machine, and the trays are smaller than we originally asked. 9.5 by 11.5 instead of 11 by 13 inches, a difference of almost 2 inches. On the left, it's the front of the LendIT machine at uOttawa. It has a touchscreen with a bilingual interface, a barcode scanner to scan patrons' card and books barcode, receipt printer to print the checkouts and returns receipts. As you can see on the main screen, there's 3 options: checkout, return, and on the bottom, the pickup holds. Items are added or removed from the machine through the door under the touchscreen. The interior is divided into several columns where the trays containing the items are stacked. In this image, you can see the green box that represent column 1, 2, and 3. When the items are in these 3 columns, it means that the items are loaded in the machine. They are available for holds, pickup, or checkout. The purple box is the robot's workspace, where it moves the trays between the slots and the front door. The robot is represented by the blue box. In the center, you can see the picture of the service column, which is also known as column 4. This column is used for loading many items in the machine. We mainly use it to load items from the reserve, as they all have RFID tags. The robot processes 1 tray at a time to place them in column 1, 2, or 3. Return items are not part of the reserve are added to this column, or when an error occurs. I won't explain the configuration in details, but here are the ones I set up to configure all the functionalities. I started with the new self-check integration profile and set up the parameters. Downloading the certificate is the most important at first to install and connect the machine to Alma. The parameters can be modified as we want afterward. I created a new library too in Alma with their circulation desk and a new reserve location. After adding a new library, make sure to save again the relationship under the resource sharing library. In this way, requested items from AFN partners or resource sharing partners can be sent to this location. Otherwise, after creating a borrowing request, I was receiving an error message. So, and I contacted the AFN help list. The solution was recommended and it resolved my problem. After configuring LendIT, I use the user engagement team has written a procedure describing all the workflows. In the next slides, I will briefly describe the setup and show you videos. The next two slides explain the course reserve workflow. So before loading items for the course reserve, it's important to put RFID tags in it, change the location in Alma, add the information of the tag, ship the books on lease campus, and the short loan letter is configured to be sent to the patron when the book is loaned to. So this is the workflow on how to load document from the reserve. The employee has to scan the system card and enter the system PIN. On the admin menu, click on the clean column 4, put the physical item in the column, and click load to load the item, and the machine will process the items. The items are now available under checkout on the main menu. Now this video will show you how a user can check out an item from the machine. The process is quite simple. So we click on the checkout button. We select the item. Click checkout to confirm. At this moment, we scan the library card and enter the PIN. The card is valid, so we wait for the document to come out. It's around 1 minute usually to process the item. I cut the scene, it was too long. And we take the book off. For pickup holds, it's almost the same process, except the user scans the card before selecting the document to access the patron's account. AFN requests are not visible in the patron's account, only in the checkout menu. If the patron is not the requester of the item, an error message will appear. This video shows the simple return. So instead of checkout, we click the return button. The machine asks to scan the barcode, the book's barcode. The barcode is valid. So the machine will bring the tray at the door to put the book on it, and it will process the item. It's a little bit different for all the requests, but requests from uOttawa, resource sharing, or AFN should all be processed the same way by using barcodes. Items are added to the machine one at a time through the front door. Initially, when we tested this feature, we didn't have a computer and barcode scanner with us. So I enabled this setting in Alma. The name is enable moving item to old shelf from self-check to true, so that that requests are automatically put on hold and the letter is sent to inform users to pick up their items. This video will show you how to put a hold in LendIT. So first we have to scan the admin card and enter the PIN. We click on check-in. Now we scan the barcode, the book's barcode. We wait the door to open. We're inserting the book. Now we have to select the number of slots needed. Depends on the thickness of the book. And we press confirm. We wait until the machine processes the book, and the old letter will be sent to the patron. These steps show how to remove an item from the machine. For example, for an expired old shelf item. Under map management, you can see on the second picture how items are represented in the column. We just have to find the item in the list, click on the row number, click on extract to front door, and waiting for the door to open to take the item out. Throughout the setup and testing, we encountered a few glitches. Here they are. I talked about a few times about the size of the trays. The problem is that health sciences books are quite big and too tight in the trays. When the book the robot tries to put the tray in the slot, it damages covers. So we cannot add them in the machine. On the right, you can see a screenshot of a list of items and two of them having the same name. The description, the volume number is not transferred on the RFID tag, so it is not possible to see which volume it is on the screen, and the items are grouped under the same title, so patrons don't know which one to select. The solution can be to modify temporarily the title in Alma by adding the volume number in it. At first, it was not possible to add French titles to the machine because the French characters were not supported. The problem was resolved by adding UTF-8 encoding, but we still have problems showing the right characters on the print receipt. If patrons do not have pins, if patrons with no pin come to the machine, they cannot check out items and need to contact the library to generate the PIN number in their account. It can be a problem because we don't have staff on site, and contacting the library team by email or phone can take more time than just showing up to the circulation desk. After picking up the books from the old shelf, sometimes patrons return the item in LendIT. Sometimes the machine processes the return and put it back to column 1, 2, or 3. We had one case where a user returned a resource sharing book, so it was now available for all, and I was able to check out the book in my account. But sometimes LendIT doesn't process the item and put it in the column 4, so the return is not flagged in Alma, but the staff will scan the barcode to do the return in Alma and print the transit slips. I'm still unsure as why LendIT acts differently. I have to test again and probably verify the logs. So talking about logs, until yesterday, we had a problems when we were trying to add AFN books on OCUL. When scanning the barcode, the machine was not able to update the information in Alma. So the book was added to the machine, but the item was not set to hold in the patron's account. Anyone could take the book from the machine and the user will not receive the letter saying that their document can be picked up. The pickup location was hidden in Omni in the meantime. So I requested the log from the vendor to examine the communication between LendIT and Alma. On the top, you can see the information when adding a uOttawa item in OCUL, and everything is fine. But on the second section of the slide, It's the communication during adding an AFN book. Scanning the barcode shows that the owner is Western, but when LendIT wants to update the information for the old, we receive an error message. You can see the error in the purple. The error is in purple. I suspect the error is caused by the expiry date because during testing for AFN items, we were not fast enough to add them to the machine and the expiry date passes. I believe we have found the root cause and should be able to resolve this issue quickly. For fulfillment statistics, like you can see, LendIT is not very popular at the moment. At this time, almost half of the requests were made by me and my colleague for testing. A total of 53 requests were completed at the library, but only 29 were picked up using LendIT. 20 requests were canceled because of the old shelf period. It has passed. When I generate the report, the moment I generate the report, we had 7 active requests, 2 from ISO partners and 5 from AFN partners for future tests. And a total of 4 requests, 4 resource sharing requests were completed. A total of 47 loans on reserve items and a total of 45 returns. It means that 2 reserve documents were returned in the bin instead of using LendIT. Currently, only 2 documents are in the reserve. 19 is the total of course reserve document added to LendIT since July 23, and 7 were removed because they are too big or impacted by the multi-volumes problem. In conclusion, I expected that the machine will be used more for the reserve, but due to the size of health science books, this has a big impact on its use. Initially, I wasn't sure about RFID tags, but the workflow is so much easier than the one with the barcode. My colleague from user engagement even started collecting quotes from vendor in order to tag eventually our old collection. I also believe that the service is still very recent, and I'm optimistic that users will request more items from this pickup location because many students from uOttawa and also from Carleton University live near this campus. For the next steps, we still have some glitches to understand and fix, but in general, the service is running adequately. But regarding the circulation numbers, I wonder if an old locker might have been more appropriate for us, and only time will tell us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. I'm just checking the chat and I don't see any questions yet. But what I think I might suggest we do is move into the open Q&A. And then if anybody has questions for any of the presenters, they can send them over, and I'm going to pass it over to Annika for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Kaylee. Thanks, Marie-Hélène. It's pretty cool seeing that the videos that you took of it all operating and the stuff in the middle, the insides of the
Yeah.
We had some comments about that too. That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me just, what I might do is I'm going to keep an eye on the chat. I see that we have a question from Michael. Michael, if you want to go ahead, I'm going to take myself off spotlight, and if the presenters can just keep their camera on when they're answering any questions, that would be excellent. Go ahead.
I had a question about the last presentation. For the machines, did you do any look at like whether or not they're accessible? Like, do they meet accessibility requirements? Out of curiosity.
No, we not initially, but I thought about it after when I did the videos. Yeah, it's something we have to talk with the user engagement team.
We have another question from William in the chat. How often does the machine break down?
It's not currently. It's okay. It never broke, but sometimes they're glitch with the door is not closing completely and it removed some things like this. But everything is quite fine yet. We just have it since July, so yeah.
Well, I think that we'll be interested to see how the students respond to that in the coming months, to see whether it does become sort of a preferred pickup location for some. So thank you for sharing that. Looking at the questions again, Oksana says, overall, do you think getting the machine was an improvement of the loan services?
Right now, I cannot say. We will have to see with times. I don't know.
I see that Katie has her hand up too. Go ahead.
Thank you. So you said that you had some like technical issue when like the door's not closing properly. What do you think about like the maintenance service? Like if you have that kind of issue, do you call LendIT and so they have someone to come in to fix it? And like how's that service?
Yeah, the company is Ristec, and they install and yeah, the technicians are quite good. If we have questions, they answer pretty fast. And if I need the logs, we requested it, and yeah, I don't think we talk about them about the door, but yeah, I'm pretty sure they're come to repair it. Yeah.
Sorry, just another question. So when you encounter that kind of technical issue, you only like contact them and call them, but you never request someone to come in to fix that? It's not required.
The way it works at the university, I'm not the product owner. I'm the technical support for Alma. So the user engagement team is the project owner. So they contact the company, and if they have problem with Alma, they contact me. So
okay.
For those details, I'm not the contact person. So
okay,
but I don't think they call the company to come for the door. I think they have to clean the sensors with the I don't know what, but yeah, but I don't think we call I don't think we requested help for this.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. So just we have a little bit of time for questions for all of our presenters. If anyone's been thinking about the presentations and haven't shared their question yet, please go ahead to do that either in the chat or in the Q&A module. We do have one from Susan Bond for for I think Mark and Nancy related to the get an accessible copy link. Susan's asking, for libraries that have this accessibility feature, do you have Ferber dedupe enabled?
Do you want to go ahead, Mark?
You go ahead.
So I had to do a bit of research because I couldn't answer this question. So Janice Adlington is our head of acquisitions. According to Janice, we have dedupe. And according to Debbie, that was not an issue. So that was the answer that they have given. So thanks to them for answering that question.
And at Laurier, I'm just double checking, Ferber. We allow duplicate records, and I think we have Ferber off. I just want to double check, but that hasn't been an issue either for us.
Anyone have any other questions for any of our presenters? Feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat. We had one other question from Natasha at the end of Johanna and Alexa's presentation. I think Kaylee responded to it, but I wondered if we wanted to, anyone wanted to expand on it. Have you created your own Dara tasks or just using the recommender?
I'm not actually that closely involved with the dark tasks. To my knowledge, what we do is we take what has been recommended through the dark tasks, and often it is actually a bigger issue behind the scenes that like, hey, it's a recommended one, but there's actually 50 or something like that. So we do some investigation around them, and we do quite a bit of work cleaning those up. But I have a couple colleagues who are much more involved in that. So if that's something that's of interest, I can connect with them.
Fantastic. So I guess, Natasha, if you have further questions, reach out to Johanna and Waterloo, and they might be able to share that information for you. Okay, well, please feel free to add any other questions that have come up. I wanted to say a big thank you to all of our presenters. Again, it's really every year that we do this, I find it so interesting to hear about all of the local initiatives that are being done across all of our member institutions, all of the really interesting solutions to problems that I'm sure are shared and obviously are shared by many, and you know, how, and people being able to come forward and demonstrate or explain them. And I think it's, I find it really valuable myself, and I hope that everyone else does as well. So thank you all. Thank you to those of you who embrace the live demonstrations. I think it's a wonderful way of bringing those ideas directly into the systems that we're working in. I also think that there's some really interesting ideas for us to sort of discuss as a group, as a collaborative futures group, around, you know, how we understand local workflows and how that impacts on what we do collectively and vice versa. So that question of you know, understanding everyone's approaches to collection strategy, for example, is going to help inform how we move forward with one of the goals of collaborative futures, which was shared print, and it's complicated, obviously. So lots of opportunity for further discussion on that as well. We will endeavour to share as much of this information on Spot Docs as we can. Obviously, we will have the slides and updated slides available on the OCUL website and on Spot Docs. where there are workflows, local workflows or solutions that people would like to share, we can certainly find space on the OCUL website to do, on the Spot Docs wiki to do that as well. And I'm hoping that we can start collecting a lot of that to expand on how we do these sessions throughout the year, and so that information is there. So thank you all for attending. So everyone from our Omni partner institutions and the other OCUL member institutions, thank you very much again to our colleagues at the colleges for attending. We're really hoping to be able to find other opportunities like this to share our experiences. I know that we're sort of at different stages with things like some of the things that we're doing, particularly with the network zone, but I am sure that there's much that we can learn from each other. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you as my position as someone who works with all of our Collaborative Futures groups. I just wanted to do a quick shout out to them and thank you all for the incredible amount of work you do on behalf of the collaboration as well. So thanks to the steering committee, all the subcommittees and working groups. As you may know, that we've just done a call for new members for these groups, so you'll be hearing about that shortly. Thank you to those who have volunteered to be part of those groups, and thank you to those who have reached the end of their terms and are stepping down. We can't do this collective work without that contribution. I will second Robin's welcome to TMU, and I know that we do have a couple of people at the mini conference today from TMU, from Toronto Metropolitan University. We're hoping that everything's going well with the final stages of implementation. I think, you know, a lot of us have been through that process and understand what it's like, and really wish you the best for that launch very, very soon, and looking forward to having you part of the conversation. And finally, I would like to thank the mini conference organizing team. Let me share with you the list of who they are. I'm going to go back to my slides just briefly, because these events also cannot happen without the help of many people. So thanks to Kimberly Ash from Brock University, Katie Zeroth from Brock as well, Kaylee Fallis from University of Guelph, Matt Fesnak from McMaster University, and Katrina Fortner from the OCUL office. Thank you for all of the time that you have put in planning this event, and we hope that we can continue to do these and replicate these in the future. With that in mind, I have to move forward to the wrong slide. Here we go. You will all be getting an email soon with a feedback form. Please feel free to let us know what you thought of the mini conference, and any feedback that you have will help inform future events for us. If you have general questions about Collaborative Futures, please feel free to reach out to the OCUL CF team, OCUL-CF@ocul.on.ca, and we will be happy to answer any questions you have. And for OCUL members, you can visit the Collaborative Futures wiki on Spot Docs. We are always happy to hear feedback on that as well, and if there's any information that you would like to be able to find collectively on there. I just want to check the chat to make sure that we haven't had any last minute questions. Lots of thanks and appreciation. So unless there's anything else come in, I would say have a great rest of your Wednesday. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Keep an eye out for the recording, and thank you all very much.